Good morning and welcome. I'm Katie McQuaige-Lucas, your ministerial intern, and my pronouns are she and hers. Today is Thanksgiving Sunday, a day for us to notice and name our blessings, and a day for us to honor those gifts together in community. This is a complicated year in which to explore gratitude, yet here we are gathered together. And there is abundance in this time we spend together. What we share with one another is sacred. So come in, be welcome, and let us worship and celebrate together. And now let us light our chalice.
In the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek.
We are Unitarian Universalist, a church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading, or UUCR. I'm Rob Craig Coleman, a member of the Worship Arts team. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Welcome to our worship service and to our online church community. We welcome you whether you prefer ham or turkey, mashed or sweet potatoes, whether you're right or left-handed when you eat, whether you still celebrate Thanksgiving or prefer to celebrate Native American Heritage Day, which, in case you don't know it, this year is on Friday. We welcome you, whether you are looking forward to Thanksgiving or would just as soon skip it this year. Whatever your thoughts about this holiday week this year, we welcome you to our service, and we are glad you are with us today. Whether you're here for the first time or a long time, we welcome all to our annual Bread Communion service. If you're with us for the first time, a special welcome. Please check back on our webpage and click on the link, click for more information about virtual worship options during COVID-19. And if you sign up for our newsletter, you can get information about ongoing events and news from the church, as well as the link to the virtual coffee and conversation time that follows our service today and each week. Also on the webpage, you can find contact information for Melissa Martin, our member services coordinator, who will help you in getting connected to UUCR. Finally, I want to tell you something. You are welcome here because we believe you belong here. Maybe it's just for the next hour, but we hope for longer. You are welcome here, and we are glad you are here with us. I'm glad that we are all together this morning.
Make us aware we are sanctuary, each day holy, loved right through, with thanksgiving. We are living sanctuary. Make us
Good morning. I'm Sally Lieberman, and my pronouns are she and her. Thank you to Thea for lighting our chalice this morning, and thank you to the Figurito family for leading our children's affirmation, reminding us what it means to be Unitarian Universalists. I'm so glad you've joined us for our Bread Communion Thanksgiving Sunday. If you remember, a communion is a coming together of people, of ideas, of hopes, intentions, actions, a coming together. Today we use bread symbolically to represent what we bring and give to one another. I've brought pita bread, something that I enjoy, and also a bread that reminds me of my mom, because she would make very fun, tasty, interesting things with pita bread. This Thanksgiving may look different for some of us. This has been such a year of challenge and change, and we are people who have become flexible, and we've gotten used to not always knowing exactly how things might be a week from now. We do know Thanksgiving arrives this Thursday. For some of us, Thanksgiving will be different. And if you are sad about Thanksgiving this year, if you are missing people or places or traditions, or sad for any reason, I hope you might reach for something familiar. Be it memory, maybe music, a friend, a conversation, photos. And if you can be familiar for someone else who you think might be sad or missing someone, and maybe even missing you, I hope you'll reach out and be familiar to someone else. I also hope that during today's service, you see some things and feel some things that feel familiar to you. And one of those things may be guest at your table. If you remember, when we meet in person, our children learn about guest at your table in their classes, and then they hand out our collection boxes during church on Bread Communion Sunday. This week, some of our children have learned about some of the partners who will receive funds from this year's fundraising, and they will introduce those people to you in just a moment. I encourage you to support Guest at Your Table if you are able and if you are willing. You can donate during our offertory as we share the plate with Guest at Your Table this year, or you could pick up a collection box on Loring Porch. I wish you a happy Thanksgiving, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Hi, my name is Abby Murphy. I read about Suja Karimuddin. I learned he was arrested by the Burmese government at the age of 17 for believing in his religion. He was released after 11 days, and he fled for his life and freedom. He reached Malaysia and stayed there for a few years. He noticed the lack of support and services for refugees like him. Seeing this, he was inspired to help. So, when he reached Australia, he created Elam, a safe place for refugees like him. One thing he says when they're sharing what their visions in life are, he says, "I want to go home, back where I'm from." We should help people like him because they should be able to have a safe place or home to go to like you and me do.
Hi, my name is Addie Murdoch. I believe Guest at Your Table is a great way to help raise money for charities that are working to protect human rights. All of these charities are important, but one that is important to me is Chief Sherrill's story. Helping with climate change has always been something I've wanted to help in. Climate change is affecting people all over the world, whether it's from a drought, stronger hurricanes, or rising sea levels. Climate change is affecting everyone. Supporting charities that are working to deal with the effects of climate change helps, not just the people in that community, but it helps all of us.
Good morning, I'm Reverend Hank Purse. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Let us begin this portion of our service by lighting our candle of community. We light it for those who are not with us today, those who we will be separate from this coming week, whether separated by distance, by time, as well as those who have passed on to that great mystery that awaits us all. We light this candle for them and for ourselves. Let us open our hearts in prayer. Thou, on this Sunday before Thanksgiving, we find ourselves wondering what it is we are thankful for. Oh yes, we might have felt that way in years before. We might have even said it out loud to you, but this year's tough. This year we mean it. I guess that Thanksgiving is our yearly reality check, when we get to think of all the things we are thankful for. But this year has seen so much pain and bitterness, so much loss, that it will be hard to comprehend it until it is long after this great unpleasantness is over. We hold in our prayers this morning all those who aren't with us right now. We think of our friends who are in the hospital. We think of those among us who will be without a loved one this year. And we hope that they feel your love. And we hope that they feel our love surrounding them. And still help us to be thankful. Thankful for the happiness that we have known in times past, for the moments of glee and ecstasy, the years of health, for the many dreams that have come true, promises long deferred that have at last been made good. May we be thankful for the dreamers and for the dearness of our loved ones, the faithfulness of our friends, the courtesy and kindness repeatedly shown to us by strangers. May we be thankful that we have survived so many close calls, so many narrow escapes, and that the same good fortune has generally followed our children and their misadventures, and our friends likewise. May we be thankful then that so much we haven't wanted and would have bypassed if we could, have still proven enriching to our experiences. Even in life's complex ways and bitter moments, we are still grateful for the strength to forget what is not worth remembering, and for the power to remember what becomes more precious as the years go on and on.
Taking up an offering is a spiritual practice, just as is prayer or acts of consecration, such as the bread communion we're about to hold in the service. And our spirit of giving is deepened by the sharing of our plate with organizations to give to those in need. Since November 2019, we have been giving half the money received in the collection each Sunday to nonprofit organizations that share our values. As we mark the first anniversary of this program, we are pleased to note that during the past year, of Share Our Plate, we have donated over $12,500 to various nonprofits. The congregation's ongoing support has been truly amazing, and thanks goes to everyone who has contributed this past year. Kicking off the second year of the Share Our Plate, our November 2020 recipient is Guest at Your Table, the annual fundraising initiative of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, which works together with an international community of grassroots partners to advance human rights and social justice around the world and improve the lives of countless individuals. UUCR's long history with Guest at Your Table is traditionally kicked off in November through the distribution of Guest at Your Table boxes by the Religious Education Program. The boxes are a visual reminder for youth and families to learn about and support the communities in partnership with UUSC. This year, we've been doing this teaching online, and today you have been introduced to some of the stories of people who will receive support from this day's collections. To give or to learn more about how to give, please go to UUCR's website and click on the big green Donate Now button. Please give generously to our virtual Shundi Share Our Plate offering to support both Guests at Your Table and the mission of UUCR. Thank you. Our reading this morning comes from Joe Harjo, written in 1951. It's entitled, "The World Ends Here." No, it's not. Give a 5 count. Our reading this morning comes from Joe Harjo, written in 1951. She entitled it, "Perhaps the World Ends Here." The world begins at a kitchen table. No matter what, we must eat to live. The gifts of earth are brought and prepared, set on the table. So it has been since creation, and it will go on. We chase chickens or dogs away from it, babies' teeth at the corners. They scrape their knees under it. It is here that children are given instructions on what it means to be human. We make men at it, we make women. At the table we gossip, recall enemies, and the ghosts of lovers. Our dreams drink coffee with us as they put their arms around our children. They laugh with us at our poor falling down selves, and as we put ourselves back together once again at the table. The table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun. Wars have begun and ended at the table. It is a place to hide in the shadow of terror, a place to celebrate the terrible victory. We have given birth on this table and have prepared our parents for burial here. At this table, we sing with joy, with sorrow. We pray of suffering and remorse. We give thanks. Perhaps the world will end at the kitchen table while we are laughing and crying, eating of the last sweet bite.
The only kitchen table that exists in my mind is the one I grew up with, the one that still sits in my parents' house. In 1964, when Mrs. Austin sold my parents her house, she left them a number of pieces of furniture, and that kitchen table was one of them. And it is a table that my family has gathered around every day since. It is the platonic ideal of kitchen tables. All others just don't seem right. Oh, I've had other kitchen tables. Most were nondescript wood given by someone's parents who were redoing their own kitchen and were handed off to whatever roommate whatever roommate it was that I was living with at the time. And there was even for a while a very nice red Formica table that I carried to a number of apartments. But to be honest, they were all just pale comparisons to that lovely old oak table there in East Fairhaven. It is heavy and it is solid, and it is also made to be able to adjust. You're able to spread it open and make it larger for bigger gatherings. Usually when I was growing up, there was just one leaf in there, but it came with 4, and each of those leaves is about 2 feet wide. And every once in a while, a meal would happen, something would happen, and we would have to expand that table. It was a big deal as a kid when I was finally old enough, strong enough to go into my mother's den, go behind the door and take out one of those huge, heavy planks and sort of waltz it into the kitchen, where my father would be trying to line up the pins that sat on one side of these leaves with the holes that sat on the other side of the other leaf. We hardly ever used all 4 leaves, to be honest, because it would make the table about 12 feet long. And there's just not that much room in the kitchen. But if there was going to be a big meal, 3 would often do. But sometimes we had 4. It was hard, though, to get all those leaves in together. Because over the years of sitting in the den, each of the leaves had gotten a little warped. There were dings and dents so that you had to put the leaves in just the right way in order to make it all fit. I once saw a documentary about Buckingham Palace where they showed all of the work that went on when they had to put on one of these grand dinners that they put on there. They showed how at the very end, when they were trying to put all these leaves in, and the last 2 leaves were sat up like this, like a little tent, and they would have to get a teenager to come in and stand on them to get them all to snap into place. Of course, my mother would never have let me stand on the table. But eventually, when we had those big parties, we were able to get all of those leaves in. And then we would have to get all the people around that big table, with chairs being brought in from every room in the house, and maybe even a few folding chairs borrowed from the church. But don't get any ideas. And just like the chairs and the leaves, we would have to fit the people around that table in a certain order as well. Children and short people sat at one end of the table where the roof slanted a bit because there's a stairways up to the attic. And thin people would have to sit on the other side by the refrigerator and the windows because the people who are perhaps more beefy would have to sit on the other side. My dad always sat at the head. And those times when the table was in its full extension and the house was filled with people and guests and family, well, that's when we were on full display. And unlike at a wedding or a funeral where individual idiosyncrasies are intensified or unresolved family dramas are exacerbated, when the table was fully extended, so were we. Of course, most of the time we didn't have all four leaves in. Most of the time it was just the four of us. My parents, my sister, myself, a couple of cats and a dog. We would sit all around that table. My sister and I grew up. My parents grew old. Since the pandemic began, my wife and our daughters and I have been spending a lot of time around our kitchen table, talking about life and family and politics and video games, about love and even death. We share with our children, and we remind ourselves of the importance of living a life that you love, which is really hard to do some days. For Joy Hararo, whose wonderful poem we heard, the center is the table, and the table is the center. What Rilke calls the center of centers, the core of cores. It is here, she writes, that children are given instructions on what it means to be human. I am not sure any sentence better captures the strangeness of our distance education classes, phone calls with family or conversations about what we are enduring as people on this planet Earth. Joy Hararo writes, at this table, we sing with joy, with sorrow. We pray of suffering and remorse. We give thanks. This Thanksgiving, it will just be my parents at that table. We'll be here, and my sister is bringing food over to my mom and dad so that they won't have to cook. These days, that table at my parents' house has no leaves in it. It seems small and square, but it's just right for the two of them. And even this year, this Thanksgiving, I know that they will not feel alone or abandoned, as that table, which has been the center of my family's life for 56 years, it will glow with strength and vigor and with love, just like yours will, I'm sure. Perhaps the world will end at the kitchen table while we are laughing and crying and eating of the last sweet bite.
Let us do this in remembrance of the earth. The elements of our communion are a reminder of our connection with the earth and the many living things on it, of which we are a part. The bread is the gift of manna, fed to us on our journey to freedom. And as the wheat in this bread was once scattered, and is now gathered and become one piece, so may all the children of creation be gathered together in harmony. Let these elements remind us of our connection to the earth and its bounty, and to those who work to provide for the many. Let them be a reminder of our connection to each other and the responsibility we have to all our connections. Let us eat and celebrate our communion together.
Good morning. I am Melissa Martin, your Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator. My pronouns are she and her. This week, we will have our regular weekly programming today through Wednesday during the day. And then our online programming will pause for the holiday weekend until next Sunday morning. And the days ahead, we hope you're able to create some time for yourself, taking a moment to pause, breathe, reflect, and practice some extreme self-care. Our December monthly newsletter will come out on Wednesday, giving you loads of information about what the weeks ahead will look like in the life of our congregation. You'll find holiday service information, as well as invitations to nurture and explore your own individual spirituality, build a committed and loving community, and help heal the world. One invitation that covers all of this comes from our Pledge Drive team. They're looking for a few new members to help with this year's campaign. They have several returning members and are looking for a few more. It's a great opportunity to serve the church in a meaningful way and have a good time doing it. Please read more about this in the newsletter or reach out to me or AJ Heidkamp for more information. I also want to let you know that we are midway through our online Kris Kringle Fair for the month of November, and it's been such a joy to see our friends, both near and far, participating in this opportunity. The handmade congregant contributions have made their way into new homes, bringing the energy and love of this congregation with it. There is still some homemade gifts available for you to purchase for yourself or a loved one, and we have a selection of partner church, equal exchange, fairly traded coffee and chocolate too. The proceeds from the sale of the coffee and chocolate items will directly support our congregation's Unitarian Universalist partner student in the Philippines. In the newsletter, you'll find a new Kris Kringle Fair update link with easy ways for you to get your fair items while supplies last. Please reach out to me if you need assistance with shopping. And don't forget to buy your raffle tickets for this year's special Whirlwind Quilt. Tickets are only on sale until December 7th, and the winner will be drawn on Sunday, December 13th. And finally, on this Bread Communion Sunday, I wish to take a moment to tell you how thankful we are for you and all that you bring to our congregation. Your gifts and talents, your time and generosity, and your dedication to our church mission in this faith. Please accept our heartfelt gratitude for you on this day and for all the days to come. Thank you for being a vital part of our congregational life.
Over the River and Through the Woods was written in 1844 by Lydia Marie Childs. She was an author and a human rights activist and also a Unitarian, and she grew up here in Medford. The poem is about her childhood and her memories of going to her grandparents' home over the river and through the woods. Well, the woods that she wrote about are pretty much gone, but the river, the Mystic River, is still here, and so is her grandparents' house. Sing along with me to this classic old song for Thanksgiving, Over the River and Through the Woods. Over the river and through the woods, to grandfather's house we go. The horse knows the way to carry the sleigh through the white and drifted snow. Over the river and through the woods, oh how the wind does blow. It stings the toes and bites the nose as over the ground we go. Over the river and through the woods to have a first-rate play. Oh, hear the bells ring, ting-a-ling-ling, hurrah for Thanksgiving Day. Over the river and through the woods, trot fast my dapple gray. Spring over the ground like a hunting hound, for this is Thanksgiving Day. Over the river and through the woods, and straight through the barnyard gate. We seem to go extremely slow, it is so hard to wait. Over the river and through the woods, now grandmother's cap I spy. Hurrah for the fun, is the pudding done? Hurrah for the pumpkin pie. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Would you join me? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. We give thanks on this precious day for those gathered here and those far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks on this precious day. Our worship is over, our service begins. Go in peace and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.